This video looks at the promotion of student-created digital content by Justin Bolivar, prepared for ETEC 531. In order to understand media, students need to learn to be producers, and therefore I propose the following as a framework of how educators can achieve that when teaching new media. But let's first look at exactly what is the problem that educators are facing here today. Students are simply consuming media in a really passive way and aren't producing any media of their own. So, what is really the problem with all this? Why is it a problem that students are simply consuming content? It's important that students have the skills to recognize the type of content that they interact with. They should also possess the skills to create that content to be part of the creation experience. But let's pause here for a moment and really examine what does this term new media mean. It's thrown around a lot, but within the new British Columbia curriculum, there are actually classes in English 10 and 11 that are designed to focus on this term new media. Defined by the province, it is a program of studies designed to reflect the changing role of technology in today's society and the increasing importance of digital media in communicating and exchanging ideas. This course is intended to allow students and educators the flexibility to develop a program of study centered on students' interests, needs, and abilities, while at the same time allowing for a range of local delivery methods. Now, that's a nice vague definition, but why don't we actually dive into what these courses actually consist of? So they consist of media and film studies, journalism and publishing, poetry and song lyrics, and digital communication. Now, in addition to these concepts, new media also looks at these what are called big ideas that help guide what happens in these courses. So the first big idea is the exploration of text and story deepens our understanding of diverse, complex ideas about identity, others, and the world. The next big idea looks at something a little different. It looks at people understand text differently depending on their worldviews and perspectives. The third big idea examines that texts are socially, culturally, geographically, and historically constructed. The fourth big idea takes into consideration that languages shape ideas and influence others. And finally, the last big idea we want to have a look at here is that digital citizenship requires both knowledge of digital technology and awareness of its impact on individuals and societies. Really, for me, this is the biggest takeaway for me from these big ideas and really help us to have our students become content producers. Now, it's great that we're going to be offering these, but let's consider the following here. It's great that we have the new media course to offer in our English curriculum, but what does theory say about students and media creation? What we're going to analyze next is just a sampling of the theory that we discussed in class, as well as additional theory I have researched. Now, first looking at one work here. From their work, From Cultures of Participation to the Rise of Crisis Mapping in a Networked World, Liu and Zemke state the following. First, they say a global participatory culture is quickly developing because of both the rapid rise of information and communication technologies like the internet and increasingly powerful mobile devices, as well as an emerging ethos of participation. Next, they state both individually and as part of a network, people are now newly empowered to participate in ways that connect all of us to the human experience. And finally, they state, as consumers of information transform themselves into active participants in the production process, a more decentralized, society-distributed form of interaction has developed. Next, we're going to move on to Fisher's notion of the culture of participation. Now, in the additional research that I did, I found that this work was quite profound and really related to what we studied in the course, as well as my initial statement at the beginning of this video. Now, what he states is that if the world of working and living relies on collaboration, creativity, definition, and framing of problems, and if it requires dealing with uncertainty, change, and intelligence that is distributed across cultures, disciplines, and tools, then education should foster transdisciplinary competencies that prepare students for having meaningful and productive lives in such a world. Further, Fisher goes on to also say, the networked environment makes possible a new modality of organizing production, radically decentralized, collaborative, and non-proprietary. Finally, Fisher goes on to say, as owners of problems, users can be active contributors engaged in creating knowledge rather than passive consumers restricted to the consumption of existing knowledge. And this is in reference to meta design. Let's take a look just right here about what Fisher actually means by meta design, because I think it is a pretty cool concept when it comes to media education. It has a focus on design for designers, and that meta designers create the social and technical prerequisites for cultures of participation by sharing control over the design process among all stakeholders. The final aspect of Fisher we are going to look at, I think, is the most important aspect that he discusses in his work. As he looks at Web 2.0 technologies, he looks at the shift from a consumer culture to a culture of participation. What does this really mean? It means that Fisher's findings help to support my initial call to action at the beginning of the video that students must be active in the world around them, especially when it comes to learning and producing media. So yes, we've determined that students should be producers as well as consumers of media. That's great, but where's the evidence? Why should we do this? As the users of digital technologies blur traditional distinctions between producers and consumers, social scientists need to move the sites of their research to new arenas and to deepen understanding of the ways of circulation of cultural objects or now electronic files and how they contribute to the production process. And that's by Kleinberg and Benensky. Now, I want to relate this quote to something that we looked at in one of our course readings, and that was the Hobbs article, where he describes key competencies of digital and media literacy. I found that these were incredibly useful in guiding how we need to look at introducing and teaching digital media within our courses. Now, to review what these key competencies were, they were number one, accessing media; two, analyzing and evaluating media; three, creating media; four, reflecting on what was found; and five, a call to action. And there will be more to elaborate on these a little later on in the video. But here's where we're at, and this is where the problem is. In the way we traditionally look and assess media in the classroom, we really only encourage steps 1 and 2. We access, we analyze, and we evaluate. Maybe we'll hit on that reflection piece, not always, but really the key pieces that we can build on and that we aim to build on in this video is the creation piece and the call to action, as these are incredibly important into having a whole understanding of the media process and having our students become producers. Now, this issue is also further identified in Hobbes' statement. And the big issue that he puts forward is that the larger concern is whether people will be able to transfer their self-developed digital skills beyond their affinity groups, fan communities, or local social cliques. And this is further compounded by what Murphy and Potts put forward, where they say what matters is not technology itself, but the social or economic system in which it is embedded. Further, this is where content creation becomes important, wherein students can produce media texts in areas either outside of school or outside of their special interest groups. Basically, can they use media as an effective form of communication and not something they simply watch or read? Then you say, okay, Justin, I get it. That's great. We understand this. But what is the solution? How do we move our students from consumers to producers? Well, I think I have an answer and I think I have a solution for you. And what I propose is that we use project and inquiry-based learning throughout our media studies. And the reason why this works is it's inspired from a reading in Module 3 with McDowell's case study called Agency Girls, Influence Power, which is an excerpt from Empowering Girls as Changemakers in Maker Culture. When reading through the findings of this piece, and reflecting on it, I really find that what McDowell puts forth on what the subjects in the study go through really help to illustrate what Hobbes puts forth in his key competencies that he outlines. And this study is really a guideline that we can follow within our own classrooms. From the project, McDowell states that girls involved in the process of creating their own media works are more likely to expose and question the ways that they are positioned by the dominant storylines in technology culture. Further, they also go by saying, by producing and sharing their PSAs with other girls, my team are expanding their mainstream media storylines that circulate in and around their lives. They're also exerting their autonomy and influence by challenging some of the oppressive gender stereotypes that undermine female roles in technology culture. McDowell also goes on to state that asking questions and encouraging design inquiry at a young age will help girls to develop the kind of lifelong learning capabilities and self initiative that are necessary for them to benefit and to participate in advancing our connected society. Now, going beyond the analyzing stage of media, students end up learning about media by immersing themselves in the creation process. And whether that could be several things. It could be, for example, creating videos. It could be through transmediation of something that they have an affinity for. It could be through investigating, hashtags or taggings like folksonomies. It could also be through manipulating and creating images. Maybe they're working with propaganda or advertisements. It could also look at creating text for specific audiences and learning the power of writing and words. It could be through something like satire or parody as well. Now, this is just a few little things that they're up there, but there could be many, many more ways to explore this. But let's have a look at this reflection portion that Hobbes discusses. When we think about it, once students have accessed, analyzed, created, they need to think about what they have just uncovered. In the reflection period, this is where students make those connections to the BC curriculum big ideas. And within these sections, where students put together the pieces of media creation to truly understand what a text may intend and how their intentions come through to their audience. And really, without this process, meaning is not made. Let's now think about this final point, this point of action, where everything really ends up coming together. Once students have gone through the essential competencies of digital and media literacy, it is time to take action. It is at this phase where project-based learning can have a great effect on the learner's understanding of media and how they can leverage media to their advantage in understanding and bringing change to an issue or change in the understanding of an issue or concept. In conclusion, we really have a lot to think about with what we've discussed today in having our students become producers. When students only analyze and consume media text, they are not exposed to the full experience of media creation. Through the theory explored in this video, as well as the steps in Hobbes' competencies for digital and media literacy, students becoming producers through a project-based learning environment leads to a rich learning experience that will have a lasting impact in the understanding of media and digital texts.